Hi. AI, hype, hope, or harm? Before I begin and answer this question, I'd like to take you back first. 1964, Cape Canaveral, Florida. An astronaut called John Glenn is about to orbit for the first time in the history of the United States. For the first time, a man is going to be sent to space using computer calculations, IBM calculations to be precise. Before he took off, he asked that this one woman called Katherine Johnson personally checks the computer's math. If she says the calculations are good, then I'm ready to go. Fast forward, 1984, this time, Los Angeles, California, Sarah Connor is hunted by a cyborg assassin called the Terminator, sent from the future. I feel that we are a little bit at crossroads between these two scenarios, fictional and historical, where AI has become so powerful on the one hand that it can help us humans accomplish great things. And on the other hand, the AI has become so powerful that it almost becomes detrimental to our very own existence. So to survive this wave, we're going to have to be less like this Sarah Connor and more like this one, ready for whatever the future might throw at us. The room is full of measurement geeks. How do we equip ourselves? What are our weapons of choice? Data, intelligence, pivot tables, and research, those are weapons of choice. So today I'm going to share a few data points around AI and trust and what it means for reputation. And then I'm going to share more specifically for PR measurement and evaluation. I'm going to share some attributes that will help us future-proof our careers. Before I do that, I would like to take a quick survey in the room and understand, based on your opinion, where you think we are on the hype cycle when it comes to AI. This is the Gartner's hype cycle that assesses how technologies that enter the market go from an initial peak of excitement all the way to overhype, and then it sort of crashes down with a lot of disappointment until it hits a bit of a plateau of productivity. So can I get a quick hands up for anyone who thinks we are in the innovation trigger phase? One, peak of inflated expectations. So we're very much on top of the hype trend. Okay, interesting. Trough of disillusionment. Okay, just a few. Slope of enlightenment. Okay, a couple more. Plateau of productivity. Okay, not quite there yet. Okay, interesting. Keep that in mind and then I'll show you where we actually are according to Gartner. So, like I said, I'm going to share a couple of insights now based on a piece of research that we've done, combining media analysis, and we also did some market research. So we analyzed thousands of articles from 2025, and we also ran some market research globally. So we surveyed 6,300 people across 19 markets as well to ask people how they perceived AI around the world. In chapter 1, AI in the spotlight, we looked at the scale, the visibility, and the different narratives surrounding AI. So we tracked various different narratives, and there was one that was really prevalent in the coverage, regardless of the different types of announcements that were made about AI. It is the fact that AI is seen as a productivity miracle. AI is this thing that's going to transform the economy. The less important, but nevertheless prevalent narrative was around the AI arms race. So whenever there's political tensions, whenever there's boardroom wars, whenever there's US-China tensions, new models released, that will feed into that narrative. And also, there's this idea that AI needs guardrails. It's extremely powerful, but it needs to be controlled. What is not gaining so much traction at the moment is the Hollywood apocalypse narrative that AI is going to kill us all just yet anyway. Then we looked at the different groups of people that comment about AI the most. Really interesting to see that CEOs drive conversation the most, so they comment about AI and therefore they shape perceptions the most. Then we have the academics and the regulators. When we looked at the sentiment, really interesting to see some differences there. The CEOs very much drive positivity. They talk about transformation. They talk about investment. Lots of positivity come from these groups. And then you see the other groups like the journalists, the influencers, the NGOs, the think tanks, the unions, all really negatively impacted by AI that really hinder the overall sentiment. When we looked at the coverage behind the CEOs, there was also a lot of coverage around the feuds and the rivalries. So that was really interesting as well. In chapter 2, we looked at emotions, reactions, and we not only took media data, and we also correlated that with audience research. Okay, so this chart is really interesting. So we used AI, of course, to code our coverage, and we asked the AI, please make an assessment as to how people would feel as a result of reading this coverage. So we asked the AI to guess what a human sentiment would be as a result of reading articles. Excitement came first, trust, and fear and concern. Then we asked real people how they would feel as a result of reading the coverage, and we found some really, really strong alignment between those data sets. So when people say, actually, the AI is not really good at getting human emotion, well, actually, that shows that they're pretty good right now, and it's only going to get better, obviously. So there's a lot of alignments there. Then we looked at the different countries and where they situated themselves in terms of excitement levels versus fear levels. We noticed there were 4 different groups. First, we had the strongly pro-AI markets, which tend to be growth markets, which included markets like India, China, Saudi Arabia, Brazil. Then we had the cautiously positive markets. The US is in that bucket, but we have lots of very diverse countries in that bucket. Then we have the markets that are more on the fence, and we have the anxious economies. France on the very far left, I'm afraid, so it was very interesting to see France on there. Then we looked at different demographic groups. Very interesting to see that first we have the middle-aged men who feel most excited about AI. They feel they have a lot of control over it, and it's something that excites them very much. Then we have the conditional adopters, which typically include middle-aged females. And the groups that see AI as something that happens to them. Those groups, so this group included the youngest and the oldest generations in the survey. Those guys feel very vulnerable, and they see AI as something that happens to them and they have very, very low agency over. In chapter 3, trust, governance, and responsibility, we looked at who controls AI in the eyes of the public and the eyes of journalists and how this AI can be trusted. So we looked at the different perceived responsibility when it comes to AI, and surprisingly, AI companies and developers are seen as the main entity responsible for the direction of AI. However, our clients, so organizations which use AI and ourselves as well, there's an increased responsibility over time that we should have a say about the direction of AI, and we should shape it very much. So there is an increase on that front that we should keep in mind. Then we looked at the trust aspects that were discussed in media. So what makes us trust AI? Accuracy and reliability of the results, and safety and misuse prevention were the most talked about aspects in media. And then we asked people, what makes you trust AI? We found a lot of alignment there as well. So safety, misuse prevention, accuracy of outputs came first, but there are some really clear PR opportunities for our clients there. There is a huge gap when it comes to transparency about how AI works. It's not talked a lot in media, and people say they care a lot about it. And safety and misuse prevention could also be talked about more. Then when it comes to the distrust aspects, in the media, the loss of control, the problems over the human oversight were the things that impacted trust the most when it came to AI, as well as the loss of privacy and increased surveillance. When we asked people how they felt about the distrust aspects, we noticed huge differences there. But namely, I'm going to call out the spread of disinformation and the cyber hacking, the fraud element. Those are huge concerns for audiences globally, and those are not things that are very talked about in media. Again, that constitutes huge PR opportunities for our clients. In chapter 4, the risk opportunity divide, what kind of change does AI represent? We looked at the opportunities versus the risks that were discussed in coverage. Regardless, again, of the announcement, opportunities prevailed in coverage. Media is really excited about what AI is going to bring. So what type of opportunities are we talking about? Here we're looking at the volume of coverage by the portrait intensity of various different opportunities that are associated with AI. And every dot is an opportunity that we tracked. The second dot will show you the direction of travel. So the small dot is H1, the bigger dot is H2. You could see that for the different opportunities that we tracked, there is a direction of travel that shows that these opportunities are becoming more and more transformational. And amongst all of the different opportunities that we tracked, productivity and efficiency at work and the economic impact that this will bring were the most talked about opportunities. And again, there's an acceleration of that transformation. If you look on the other side, the risks, again, we tracked various different risks, but the direction of travel goes the other side. So there's very much a polarization here where the opportunities are seen as accelerating and more transformational, and the risks are riskier over time. And again, we tracked various different risks, but it's that loss of control, it's the oversight that is becoming very much of an issue, and it is going more towards that active concern, red line area risk, and that is seen as a little bit of a concern, according to media. Then we looked at the different case studies that were discussed in coverage when it comes to AI, and all of the things that came on top of the chart: automation, analytics, content creation, customer service, information retrieval, summarizations, are all things that we do on a day-to-day basis in this industry. So, of course, our clients are going to think they can do a lot of this stuff in-house. There's going to be a redirection of investments. The impacts are going to be huge. So I'm going to talk about some of these implications for us. But for our clients, various different implications. First, we're going to have to move beyond hype and make sure that our clients anchor messaging in oversight. They're also going to have to address the trust and audience trust gap. There is indeed a bit of a trust gap here. Empower credible sources beyond the CEOs. There's lots of technical experts and specialists that should and can shape the perception of AI. Our clients are going to have to make sure that they localize their messaging by the different markets' maturity, because there are huge gaps there. And they're going to have to speak directly to the different generations, because the different generations feel very, very differently about AI. And finally, make sure that they reframe AI from inevitability to responsibility. So, some of you will have guessed it, we are currently, according to Gartner, in the froth of disillusionment. So we've started, we've hit the hype, the peak of hype, and we're crashing down to earth. So this is where we currently are. So for us, PR measurement practitioners, I've just showed you this chart about all the different use cases, and there's a lot of coverage about this, and a lot of clients are going to think, well, actually, I can do a lot of this stuff in-house. So what does it mean for us, measurement experts? How are we going to thrive when the machines take over? I think human consultancy is going to be the thing that's going to save us. So I'm going to share 7 attributes really quickly. I've got a lot of slides, and I know John is going to keep me on schedule, so I'm going to go over them really quickly. So 7 attributes which I think will help us future-proof our career. First of all, strategic thinking. AI is really good at getting us straight to the results, but it's not about that. It's asking the right questions in the first place. It's understanding our clients' objectives, how they define success, the different data sources that they have. It's about, well, I feel sometimes we go straight to the action, but strategic action is going to be more important. So asking the right questions in the first place and asking your team how we should approach certain problems is going to be more important than the answer to the problem in the first place. Interdisciplinarity. I saw this advert on the tube in London towards the end of last year, and I thought, wow, this is a direction of travel. This is an advert for a new type of university that teaches you a little bit about everything. And if you look at PR has exploded into everything, everywhere, all at once. PR is about business, it's about geopolitics, it's about behavioral science, it's about technology, it's about psychology, it's about all these things. So we're going to have to be a little bit more like a Swiss Army knife. We can't just sharpen one thing, one skill in the toolkit. We're going to have to become more curious, more cross-functional. We're going to have to learn so many different things in order to be relevant. The future of PR is not going to be about the measurement of reputation. We're going to have to decode everything that's around it. So interdisciplinary is going to be very different. There's something wrong with the format of these slides. I'm sorry, guys. Creativity. If anyone's read this book by Ethan Mollick, in Co-Intelligence, he says that we're going to go full circle with AI because AI models are trained on human creativity. And when these models don't have access to fresh human data, there's going to be a bit of a model collapse. according to a study by Axios, there's about 50% of content on the internet that is now AI generated. But it's good news, because that number has plateaued. There was a huge increase, a huge influx in AI-generated articles that appeared after the launch of ChatGPT, so towards the end of 2022. And this number has now plateaued, because what we are seeing is that after a while, the AI will start essentially eating its own slop, which is disgusting. So you're not going to have more and more content that is produced over time. And so what we might be experiencing is a model collapse. What makes us great humans is that we have an unlimited ability to keep learning. And a lot of the conversation is around the data centers and the GPUs and how we're going to process all this information, but we're running out of data. Personal branding is going to be really important. Our industry has been really focused on, first of all, selling the data, then selling the insights, or interpreting what the data says. And the future, I think, is going to be about selling the experience, so selling the person. And so your proof of humanity is going to be worth a lot more going forward. Your proof of humanity is essentially your tangible, the tangible evidence of your presence coupled with the outputs, the outcomes that can't be replicated by machines. So we're going to have opinions, convictions, personality, all things that AI don't really have to really differentiate ourselves. Relational intelligence. When you think about what we do, there's, I think, two things. We help clients change people's perceptions about things, and having that cultural, emotional awareness is going to be an advantage. But also, change management internally is a lot of what we do. So we help foster trust in order to drive behavioral change and make sure that people share the right data. They have job measurement, best practice principles, and ensure that we use our emotional intelligence to make sure that these measurement programs work well. If the CMO doesn't get along with the CCO and they don't share the data, AI is not going to do anything about it. You're going to have a human in the room and facilitate this relationship. Critical thinking and sense making, I think it's important to remember that all these models have a lot of bias. So there's this thing called the bias spectrum that is very wide, and we should make sure that we understand everything that goes behind all these different models. Are they following corporate neutrality? Are they influenced by commercial influences? Are we talking about, yeah, so anyway, we're going to have to be very mindful of those biases. And finally, tech translation. I think that's another attribute that shows the direction of travel. This is Lara Sophie Botha. She is a consultant for Deloitte. She used to work at Deloitte talking about the technology. Her job is about telling human stories, decomplexifying, simplifying technology so that audiences understand what this is about. And of course, AI is going to be more and more prevalent. The technology is going to be more and more prevalent. So our role is going to be more about this. So start building your AI moat today. How to do that? First of all, make sure that you embrace AI, but clarify our real edge, the transformation that no AI can replicate. We need to stop insights that AI can produce. We're going to have to be brutally honest about what clients can and can't do. There's a lot of hype, as we know, and double down on genuine strategy. So AI, hype, hope, harm. The hype, I think, reminds us that we have to remain critical. The hope reminds us of the potential, and the harm reminds us that we have to keep humans, we have to keep consultants very much at the center of it. Thank you very much. Full reports on there.